Another edition of Facing the Nation. I am Malika Ramsey. Thank you for joining us. For those of you at home and you're wondering what's happening, I know you're used to us coming on another 10 or 15 minutes later, which is at 12:30. But today, to facilitate Minister David Patterson, of course, after he accepted our invitation to be a part of Facing the Nation today, to facilitate his schedule, we had to begin the program a little earlier today. So thank you very much for inviting us into your homes. Of course, you heard me say the Honorable David Patterson. You know he's the Minister of Public Infrastructure. Therefore, we'll be talking all things public as much as we can get in the time that we have with him today. We'll be talking things public infrastructure. And interestingly enough, our conversation comes at a time when he himself and team, of course, you know, it's never a one-man show. They would have just wrapped up works and monitoring the works and so on in terms of the repairs on the Demerara Harbour Bridge. You know that made the news big earlier in this week. Many persons were inconvenienced. So we have the minister here to talk about that and, of course, much more in the public infrastructure sector. Minister, thank you very much for coming on Facing Nation. I should actually say welcome back, even though he has not been here as a minister, but he has been here as a member of the APNU+AFC coalition. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you and the viewers. My pleasure.
All right, great. You are somewhat the man of the moment because everyone would have been looking to you for answers earlier in the week when we had that unfortunate damage to the Demerara Harbour Bridge. I know much would have been ventilated in the media, in the public domain regarding the repairs, how long it took and all of that. Minister, one of the things that is of concern though is in terms of the investigation, I don't know how much you can reveal in terms of that, but people are concerned. Is it some sort of callous, carelessness by people who use our waters? Are there measures that are going to be put in place to ensure strict penalties and to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again?
Well, yes. As you know, well, that was my initial concern when I heard the report. One that that a foreign vessel, barge in this case, came loose and rammed into the bridge. At the moment, the investigation is centered between the police and MARAD, which is the maritime agency in charge of regulating the waterways. Their preliminary investigation would have shown that the crew was foreign, Cubans and Hondurans, I'm told. The vessel was a Panamanian registered vessel. It was contracted to transship bauxite from a bauxite mine along the Demerara River, bauxite site along the Demerara River. And it was 2 days ahead of when it was scheduled to cross. So the accident happened on early Monday morning. They were actually scheduled to cross on Tuesday morning.
Is that, sorry to cut you, Minister, but is that normal too?
Well, we normally don't allow that. We normally we tell you to stay where you are until because obviously it's a very narrow, congested airway, riverway. So they were day ahead of schedule. They anchored in what we consider to be outside of the anchoring basin. You can remember, if you can recall, about I would say about 2 to 3 months ago, a Trinidadian vessel anchored in that same area and burst a
right. It wasn't as bad though, right?
Right, and they broke a cable for GPL.
Yes.
In that. So we tightened the anchorage requirements around that area because of that. So we were particularly distressed when we heard that this happened. Well, of course, everyone knows what happened. It came loose and drifted down and hit the bridge, broke. It did more damage than we initially thought. I mean, and one of the things that you do is that when you make an initial assessment, when you actually do get down to actually trying to do the repairs, it was more extensive. I mean, we initially thought it was about like 8 anchor buoys that were dislodged, and ended up being 19, which is like double the number.
That's double.
But thankfully, I mean, the team, Mr. Adams and team were very work, and they were able to get us up and running. We're now back on schedule as from yesterday. The investigations is ongoing. The cost, I know that's the next thing. That's obviously the cost we will be putting the cost on to the barge owners, the agent, and then eventually the person that hired them. Between those three parties, they will have to. We will look for them to repay. I can't put a number to it because there's several other things. Because there is some of what we realize is the most obvious with the cost to repair the bridge. But there are other incidental costs. There's a lady, her car was damaged.
Yeah. It's a female. Okay.
Female, right? The car was damaged, so somebody has to pay for those repairs. We worked. The bridge were operated for 2 days without any revenue. Somebody has to pay for that. Means that's our fault. And then Marad, they had to, which is to beef up their support at the river crossings, Freedom Hoop and Starbrook.
Starbrook between the two.
And they worked until 10. That's a cost.
That's a cost.
That's a cost. The police had to be activated to man those places. That's a cost. So when we put all the costs together, that's not the bridge repair. It will be substantial, and we will be looking to get.
So would it be accurate to say that government wouldn't stand the cost?
Well, we've already stood the cost. We'll be looking now to recoup. Everything that we would spend. Because obviously we could not wait. So we went into our own resources to fund immediately the repairs.
Okay.
Now that that's finished, and now that we're back to some sort of normalcy, we're tabulating and computing all the amount that we would have spent.
So you get it from the
all the agencies. I mean, and it's us, police, Marad, everyone that had to do anything extra. We added them all together, and there's some extra things that people don't even know that has a cost. We had to rent tower lights, the lights so you can work. We had to work
the men can work
24 hours, not only for the landings in Freedom Hoop, as well as Starbrook, because normally we don't allow boat crossings at night. So we have to light up the place and those things like that. So there's some soft costs that we now have to sit down and calculate.
So you're not in a position, though, to say, to give a grand total, to give one figure.
No, up to today. Numbers are still, people are now
crunching numbers. Understood. And if we're going to be trying to recuperate the cost from the foreign vessel, you said, the owners and everyone involved in terms of the operations of the foreign vessel, is that also going to be seen as a charge or a sanction, or that would be separate coming from the police?
This is
just cost.
This is just cost. The police investigation has been completed. Marad's investigation now, because they have to, there's a criminal investigation to see if there's any criminality in it.
Okay.
And then there's a regulatory agent, Marad, they now have seen negligence. So therefore, obviously, we can bring charges against the captain and his crew, and the pilot and his crew, because they may have been negligent. If not criminal, it's negligent.
Okay.
So the investigation is ongoing.
Okay, all right, great. Viewers, if you're now tuning in, my conversation is with the Honorable David Patterson, the Minister of Public Infrastructure, and we're talking things public infrastructure. We had to start out on the note of the Demerara Harbour Bridge. As you know, many commuters, even business persons, and interestingly enough, Minister, I remember, every now and again traversing the bridge when I lived in that region. Sometimes from some event, you might be going home at 10 or 11 o'clock in the night, and you actually see vendors coming over with their produce at that hour. So viewers, is just to let you know the magnitude of, and the amount of persons that would have been displaced, but we're happy that at least for now all is well, and, we await the reports from those investigations. Viewers, I'm trying to move on quickly here because the minister, his time here today is short. One other thing before we move on from the bridge of itself. When these things happen, people always talk, well, man, we got to get this new bridge. Obviously, this cannot happen overnight. It can't happen in a month, maybe not even a year. Are you in a position to say where we are in terms of a new bridge?
Right. As you know, I have been the one of the persons pushing for a new bridge since time immemorial, because everyone knows the West Siders as well as the person on the East Bank. They realize the traffic congestion in the morning and in the evening. You know what I mean? That the accident happened on the first day of school. You know what I mean? Some youngsters wanted to go to school and thrown out. So on the new bridge, we've completed all the studies. I mean, we're working along with the World Bank, the IFC World Bank. They have a private sector financing company, IFC. We're working along them. All the preliminary works have been done. The preliminary bidding document has been prepared. What they will be going out on our government of Guyana's behalf is a request for bids from public international firms in a public-private partnership, and they're handling the procurement section of it. That's supposed to be launched sometime this quarter.
Okay.
And obviously we anticipate it to be a 2-year process, 18 months to finalize a contract and 18 months construction. But persons have to know this is project that's not a bridge. There's roads.
Okay.
We have to build new roads to the bridge.
Access
roads and those things like that, because it wouldn't be landing in the same place. So it's not a quick fix, but obviously what we have to do is start, because if we don't start, we go nowhere.
Yeah, we don't want to be displaced like this again. One other thing also still related to that, you were quoted in the media, and I saw some video footage with you saying, and this basically, viewers, this would have been a response to people who were saying, well, why not bring back the ferry service and so on. And I know one of the things you said is that we can't do that because the stellings is at Vredenhoop. It's not prepared for that. It's not in a state.
Both sides, the Stabroek and Vredenhoop are in terrible state of disrepair. They're good enough for speedboats and light vessels and those things like that. But the previous administration pulled off the ferry service years ago, and no maintenance work was done. Yeah, it was done since then. So all the gantries, the mooring piles, everything like that, they're all gone into and dilapidated and those things like that. It would take a tremendous amount of money to bring it back up to put back in a ferry service. But obviously, we have to now look at alternatives.
Yeah, and that's not really a priority.
Yes, because we were looking to upgrade those same areas for waterfront development, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. Make Vredenhoop into a nice commercial space, and so you can use bigger water taxis, bigger speedboats, and nicer speedboats. We were not looking towards vehicular travel. We have to look at a contingency plan, but additional contingency planning. But they bringing the speedboats back into the ferries back into operation was not one of them. The whole area, the use of the area has changed. Since then, I don't even know if we can actually get access to those areas now. Particularly on the Vredenhoop side. Because
I'm no engineer here, but I'm assuming you would have to actually probably do some sort of work on the waterways of itself, digging or something like that.
We have to do waterways. You have to do works on the structures themselves. I don't think they can take the weight of a truck or anything like that. They can take the weight of a human being and those things like that. And so, but when you put heavy weights on it, that's the interest.
Okay, we're going to try to move on quickly now. Minister, one of the things is government, and of course, by extension, the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, because that is the ministry in which the sector falls. This government would have been praised from 2015 to now. Guyana has physically transformed in most areas. We have better roads, better lighting, generally. Even though, including myself, every now and again, we complain about roads that, need to be done quickly and so on. What is, and viewers, I'm asking the minister this question sort of in an extensive way, so to give him room to answer because of the limited time. What is currently on your ministry's agenda in terms of road development that can benefit Guyanese immediately? I know for sure Mandela Avenue is one, but let's talk about where public infrastructure is going and where you intend to take it. Of course, we will get another term in office, so where you intend to take it?
First and foremost, Mandela Avenue, East Coast is coming to completion. We've extended that contract up towards, it was supposed to stop at Belfield, it now goes towards Hope with the Hope Bridge, so that obviously it was supposed to be completed by the end of this year. It'll be early next year for the entire 100 stretch to be finished. Mandela is slated to be finished in totality, and Mandela has, when you finish the road works, there are pedestrian walkways, new street lights, new sidewalks, new safety features. Everything for Mandela is slated to be finished next year, May. Next May, wow. That is for Mandela. So therefore, by next year, May, you'd have the entire East Coast finished, and then you would have the Sheriff Mandela finished. My next big project and which I'm going to launch officially soon, is the East Coast Bypass. The preliminary designs are finished. My engineers, we presented it to cabinet. My engineers are now doing the rendering. So therefore, shortly what I'll be launching is a rendering of what it's going to look like, dual cartway all the way from Ogle all the way to Diamond.
Nice.
It'll be interconnecting to Aubrey Barker. So you will be able to go straight through Aubrey Barker and connect onto it.
Wonderful.
Houston,
finally.
Hague Bosch, you will connect on to Mucka Arcadia Road, the Providence, if you connect on, and then finally into Diamond. So, and that in total, that's about 20 kilometers of road.
So viewers, again, no engineer, and some of you know my directions are off. Does this eliminate the problem of only having one road to the airport?
Exactly.
The CBJ airport.
Right. So therefore, the road doesn't go all the way to the airport up now. We'll stop on phase 1, we'll stop at Diamond, then we'll continue it in phase 2. So phase 1, you'll be able to get up to Diamond on a high-speed highway without getting in through the existing road. So the idea is obviously, and it's a dual cartway. I mean, so it'll be separated out. You know, I mean, so for 1 lane, 2 lanes coming to town, 2 lanes going up to the Diamond and those East Bank areas. So idea is to ease the congestion on the existing East Bank road. So therefore, persons from Diamond, instead of coming down there, they can now just go straight and come down and come into town. So therefore, while we're waiting on the new bridge to be done, the only traffic in the morning that should be on the East Bank Road, when that is completed, would be the road, people coming over from the west side onto town.
Okay,
and people from Diamond and coming now, the villages coming down can just do a bypass and get there.
In a sense, as if you're going through the back. Yes, I understand.
So that is well, it's approved. The guys are just doing the rendering and so on, I reckon, but in another 2 or 3 weeks, I have a big official launch of the project.
An announcement. Yes. All right. So you have lots to launch. Another thing, the overhead. I think I'm having a senior moment at this point. The overhead passes on the East Bank. There's been some complaint that they were never officially commissioned. What is stopping that? What is preventing that? And is that in any way, hampering the use?
Well, they're finished. I think 2 are open, 2 of the 5 are officially open. When I say officially, the only thing that have not been officially open is actually elevators inside. I want to ensure the elevators are manned, because obviously this are for disabled primarily. I mean, pregnant mothers, young children, differently able persons, and those things. I don't want persons. We said it may not be a good idea to let somebody just go in and use it, doesn't know how to use a particular elevator.
And children are very playful
and be stuck on it and so. So that was the initial hold up in the moment. But we're bringing the rest on. We've trained the persons and those things like that. They're working. The one by Houston is working quite well at the moment, the one by the Demerara Harbour Bridge and the one by Houston as well. We'll open up the other 3, depends on need, but just took me some time to get everything right. Okay. One of the worst things you can do is open something prematurely. You could imagine like the social media, if someone got stuck.
Yes, they will, as much as they're trying to beat up on you for, on government for not commissioning, if someone gets stuck, you become enemy number 1.
Yes. So we have to get it right, and we got it right, so we're doing them progressively.
Okay, perfect. Something that is a thorn in everyone's side, GPL. What... I'm not even sure how to ask this. GPL continues to be a problem, Minister. And I posted on social media, 2 days ago. What next? It's as if we've gone into the phases as if GPL is every other week or even every week. They're always in some sort of crisis mode. What really is the problem? How do we really fix GPL?
Right. So, GPL is like, I don't know, one of those really sensitive children that you have, or the high-strung children you have. The problem is, the genesis of the problem is that coming up for the last, before the change administration, the previous administrations concentrated all their finances, all their ideas into Mila, as though that would solve all this. And they neglected certain basic things, I mean, and which is like the most problematic of them was like the transmission and distribution lines, you know. So therefore, that is what the transmission lines are what causes all these frequent outages. What happens? A car knocks up. The system is supposed to be so designed, like anybody that's in your house. If a light blows in one room, doesn't give you a power outage in your entire house. But because of but GPL system is so fragile, if a light blows in one area,
it affects
the entire system, and so it's a lack of protection in the system that we're trying to build back up. When the new CEO came in, immediately he identified, as you probably will see, 17 different ways which the system can trip. A normal, well-built system has maybe one, maybe two different flaws that can cause a total shutdown. We have 17 and counting, you know what I mean? So therefore, and every single day, and they can happen at any time, you know what I mean? So it's a very fragile system. I mean, we've been trying. I mean, every time you get it right, every time you get yourself back on order. Our most recent is that we've been diversifying our generation sets, and not everything is based in Freedom, Hoop, and Georgetown. We put some new sets in Onverwac, which is in West Coast Berbice, and the sets are working perfectly, but the system is so old. By you adding new systems, new power into it, that's the most recent issue we had. It burned the transformer, providing the power to the grid. Yeah. So that all the power that we produce in Onverwac was not available to us, so therefore obviously tripped the system. That has been fixed, but something else happened. So every time you think, well, listen to me, until we get the entire transmission distribution line up and running, all we can do is just keep reducing the amount of outages.
That apart, the system of itself, sometimes I think as citizens, as Guyanese, we don't like to take responsibilities of our own actions. And someone posted, I think 2 or 3 days ago, a contractor, a pole was damaged. Unfortunately, it even fell on a woman. Are there guidelines, not only guidelines, but sanctions for when, and I think months ago, sometime last year, you took to social media and you complained about a man that damaged some piece of infrastructure. Are there procedures to guide these people, and not only procedures to guide them, but sanctions? Because at the end of the day, when government spends this amount of money on fixing, or when you don't spend the money, we complain. But then there must be some sort of system where citizens of themselves can be sanctioned.
Well, you mean the accident that happened in Mandela, obviously,
yes,
that is quite good. That's the easy one, because we knew who caused it and who to sanction. So sanctions will be placed against him to repairs and those things like that. First and foremost, even if the sanctions are given to him, this still doesn't help you, because you got a power outage.
Exactly.
Secondly, we also have another phenomenon which happens very often all around the country, right? Cars and trucks running into these same sort of posts. And we don't even know it's who, because unless there's a police report.
Well, hopefully the cameras now will help.
Yeah, well, yes, the camera, but that's one of the things. And then on top of that, our laws are so outdated. And, you know what I mean? So when you knock a pole down, the minimum it costs us is $2 million, because the transformer.
And that's minimum.
Minimum. You know what I mean? Sometimes the one in Mandela, so we 4 or 5 times that, because it's 3 transformers and those things like that. But minimum is $2 million. The sanctions, so persons are pleading guilty, and when you plead guilty, you get a fine of $10,000, something like that. You know.
I can't do anything.
I can't do anything. Even if you give them, jail time, doesn't do anything. So there's no deterrent to them. It means no help to the. And then so the discussions now are even going on about, because I can put now bollards around my post. But if you do that, it's a public safety issue, because now obviously somebody runs into it now.
You have to pay
because you can do it. So it's an ongoing battle, you know, and that we have to keep going. But
I think sometimes as citizens we forget, when we get impatient and we get all emotional, especially on social media, we forget that life is not black and white. There's always, these gray areas.
And let me tell you something that I've come to appreciate with GPL. The system, if you live in South, I speak to South because I know that quite well. The wires and the poles that are in South were the same that when they under President Burnham in 1970 when they did the exact same wires and poles and that. So they're old, they're fragile. You know, I mean, some of them we can't even get to because the bush is growing up, so we have to plant a new pole in front of your house. When South was done, all the poles were in the alley. Anywhere from South and North would know they were in the alleyways. We can't even get to the alleyways to get them repaired. So when a transformer goes out in South, takes the whole South or block out in South, and people complain you're taking so long, we literally have to go and plant a brand new pole with a brand new rewiring because we can't get to.
And the thing is, maybe even if you get to the post that was originally there, again, no engineer here, you might not find the parts and the.
It's 30, 40 years old, you know what I mean? So therefore, it obviously can't use it. But these are the things that, but in a normal, well-functioning country, I mean, which we've been changing and upgrading as you go on, you know what I mean? It's just like a car or any piece of equipment in your house, you know, you keep upgrading it as it becomes obsolete and those things like that. And that hasn't been done. We're paying the price, but we've already started to address it as well.
All right. Viewers, we can't go too much further in depth. I just have about 1 more minute left with the Minister. Minister, before, there's not much you can say in 1 minute, but what is the most successful project that would have benefited Guyanese holistically, coming from public infrastructure from 2015 to now? And again, maybe a minute and 30 seconds. What else can they expect apart from the Mandela Avenue? You already explained those things, Mandela Avenue, the new bridge, and all of that. Well, what's left?
You're not going to put me on the spot to say what is most significant, because I have several departments in my ministry, and if I say if I say one,
they will come.
They will say to Minister, everyone, we're all
Minister
working hard.
Staff who's looking, blame me. Put the blame on me.
I'm not good. But what I can tell you, though, what I can tell you, what's in view is that I announced that in last year we bought a brand new asphalt plant. Okay. It's in Guyana. It's now being installed. So therefore, you know, we've been doing a lot of roads. So the asphalt plant will be the most modern in the Caribbean when it's finished. It costs us about almost $3 million US. It belongs to the government of Guyana. And the idea is obviously to be able to get the road works, be able to do cheaper. So with the exact same amount, with our own asphalt plant, the one that we use that I've been doing all these roads can only do 35 tons per hour.
Okay.
The one that we have now is going to do 160 tons per hour. So like 3 or 4 times cheaper. It means all automated and those things, and that's the right specs and those things. So we anticipate that even with the exact same amount of money we have now, but we know we're getting more, we'll be able to do much more roads. It'll be finished in another 2 or 3 months. It's been installed and erected. Right now it's environmentally friendly, you know, I mean, it's computerized, perfect. So therefore we'll be able to supply at a cheaper cost and do much more road works in-house. So therefore, Parfait Harmony, I know the places that complain, Eccles, Parfait Harmony, or Stella, and all those housing developments, help is on the way.
Okay, so. All right, great. Unfortunately, viewers, we're going to have to leave our conversation with the Minister there for now. Minister, I want to thank you very much for coming and sharing with us, even allowing me to take a junk out of your schedule.
No problem at all, man. No problem at all. I'll be back.
Great. Yes, I know. We look forward to you. Viewers, what we'll do now is take a quick break so that the Minister can exit, and we'll come back and deal with the second half. I'm bringing that press conference that I did promise you last week. This is Facing the Nation. Stay tuned. All right, viewers, those of you who are now tuning in and you're wondering what's happening, yes, Facing the Nation came on the air today at 12:15 to facilitate Minister Patterson's schedule. He has to jet off to another meeting at 1 o'clock. The meeting is going to start at 1 o'clock, so he only has about 10 minutes or so to get there. So once again, we thank you very much for him to allow us to cut in on his time. So those of you who are now tuning in and you've missed a big part of my conversation conversation with him. As usual, you can catch it on my YouTube channel and Facebook page before the end of the day. Really brought some insight to public infrastructure, and especially when it comes to the Demerara Harbour Bridge, because it's such a big concern for us here. And I know I think the highlight of the conversation is the fact that he talked about the cost. We must recuperate that cost. We must get that cost back, because as you can see, he's still not yet in a position to tell us but I'm going to say millions. He's still not in a position to tell us how much really was spent there. So much things I wanted to also talk to him about. Earlier in the week, we saw both from him and the head of the Demerara Harbour Bridge there, the general manager, Mr. Ralston Adams. He talked about the fact that they have one diver, and one diver was working there. So it's a lot of constraints and a lot of things working against them there, but we trust that all of these things will be fixed sooner rather than later. And I'm really, really interested in what comes out of the investigation, whether, to repeat the words of the minister, whether it would have been negligence, or criminal behavior on the part of those who were manning the vessel that ran into the bridge. Because again, I said this on social media, this is not a banana republic. Somebody, indeed must absorb that cost. And I really would like to see where the investigation goes. Interestingly enough, you can't do that in the waters of other countries. And again, one of the hardest things is the fact that they were in our waters 2 nights before they were scheduled, or they should have been there. But again, I am not an engineer, and it's a learning process, but these things are basic. We must demand that our nation, our country, our sovereignty is protected. So people can't just be allowed to do willy-nilly, in our territory and, not pay for it. It has to happen. But that's enough from me for now. Last week, I promised you 2 press conferences. I was only able to bring 1. And the reason, even though it's about 2 weeks late now, I still really want to bring you pieces of this press conference. That is the press conference with Minister Winston Felix, where he talked about the change that we've saw in terms of crime since this government took over, in terms of the significant reduction and the fact that they're being solved and so on. So I really wanted you to I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to bring the entire thing to you, because remember, we came on air at 12:15, so we're coming off air at 1:15. But of course, this is Facing the Nation. Let's see how much of it we can bring to you this week. Stay tuned.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, good morning. Welcome on down to Congress Place, Sophia, for today's press conference. My name is Ryan Belgrave, National Chairman of the PNCR's Youth Arm, the Guyana Youth and Student Movement. I shall be the moderator for today's press conference. Joining me on this set today is Executive Member of the People's National Congress Reform and Minister of Citizenship, Minister Winston Felix. Mr. Felix will be reading the party's prepared statement today, after which we will respond to questions fielded by you, the members of the media. So I'll turn you over to Minister Felix to read a prepared statement at this time.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Members of the media, good morning. My presentation today is entitled Tackling Crime, Dismantling of the Criminal State. The People's National Congress Reform, the PNCR, affirms that the security and safety of all Guyanese is paramount. Under the People's Progressive Party civic government, great damage was done to the security of our country, especially between the years 2000 and 2008, which we refer to as the Troubles. The extent of the damage done during that period was so extensive, the security sector is still recovering. However, the APNU+AFC government is committed to the security sector reform. We are committed to restoring law and order in Guyana. We are committed to restoring integrity and trust in our security forces. The PNCR recall that under the PPPC, Guyana was infamously known as the narco economy, violent crimes and endemic corruption. During its time in government, the PPPC aligned itself with organized crime, using their activities to line their own pockets while pushing our country into anarchy. Guyanese lost confidence in the PPPC and voted them out of office in 2015 because that party persistently failed to address the people's basic needs for safety and security. The PPPC now wants Guyanese to forget that it was under their watch that contraband smuggling was prevalent, narco trafficking and gun running were commonplace, gun crimes were at an all-time high, drug death squads roamed the streets, causing over 400 unsolved murders, including the murders of journalist Ronald Waddle and activist Courtney Crummy. Human trafficking was commonplace, with the U.S. Department placing Guyana on their watch list. Crimes such as bribery and armed robbery, arson, interpersonal violence, murder, piracy, rapes, all increased under the PPPC. The Ghana police force was starved of resources and training they badly needed. The PNCR is proud that in just 4 short years under the APNU+AFC, Guyana is finally moving in the right direction. Serious crime has been reduced to over 3,600 incidents in 2014 to just under 2,700 incidents in 2018, a decrease of 25%. The Ghana police force has been expanded and given the resources and training they need to fight crime. Unlike under the PPPC, today crimes are being solved. Specialist police units have been established to fight organized criminal gangs that once controlled our country. Due to these increased initiatives, there has been a 25% drop in murders from 149 to 111. A drop in reported cases, burglary, and breaking and entering. The PNCR calls attention to the thousands of streetlights and CCTV cameras that have been installed all across Guyana. And under the APNU+AFC, in many regions, the installation of streetlight has caused a reduction in petty crimes. Residents across 7 constituencies in the East Berbice Quarantine region are no longer afraid to venture out at night, thanks to the newly installed streetlights. The PNCR, as a partner in the APNU+AFC government, takes pride in the efforts that our government has made to rid Guyana of corruption and bribery. APNU+AFC's rapid progress on countering corruption has been recognized internationally, with Guyana highlighted as one of the biggest improvers of the Transparency's International Corruption Index. Guyana has seen a 27.5% improvement in its ranking. The National Anti-Narcotics Agency, NANO, was established by the coalition government to tackle drug trafficking. As a result, we have seen an increase in narcotic seizures, with over 800 kilograms of cocaine, 65,000 kilograms of cannabis, and 1,900 kilograms of heroin seized in 2017 and 2018. Guyanese authorities initiated 503 prosecutions and convicted 227 individuals for narcotic trafficking during the same period. The PNCR is cognizant that crime is an issue that affects all Guyanese. We all want to be able to walk our streets safely. We all want to live in safe communities. Under this government, the police force has been given the resources and tools to tackle crime and make our streets safe. We are not only taking criminals off the streets, but we are also removing drugs from our communities. In all of this, we must not forget that the PPP's presidential candidate, Irfan Ali, is still before the court facing 19 charges for his role in an alleged conspiracy to defraud the state of some $174 million. And the authenticity of his academic qualifications are still questionable. If Mr. Ali is prepared to lie about his academic qualifications, then it stands to reason that he would lie about anything. You cannot trust him, and you cannot trust the dishonest PPP. As we approach the new general and regional elections, nothing has changed. The PPP is the same old faces, with the same old scandals, wanting to return to the same old corruption and their same old ways of stealing from the Guyanese people, and stealing our jobs and holding back our young people. The PNCR calls on Guyanese to support the APNU+AFC and our plan to crack down on crime and corruption. We are making progress, but it is still only the beginning. There is so much more that needs to be done to make our communities and our streets safe. A safe, stable community will bring with it a stable climate for the creation of real and meaningful jobs. With your continued support, we can take Guyana forward. Here ends the reading of the statement.
Members of the media, that of course was the statement and the position of the People's National Congress Reform at this time. This is the opportunity that you have to field your questions based on the statement that was read and any pertinent questions that relates to the party's operations at this time.
Good morning, Sean Embrad, Capital News. Minister, you spoke on crime. There's a perception that there's still criminal activities and it's severe. How would you describe the type of criminal activities that are pervading the society now? And I haven't heard you mention anything in the line of conviction for what we will call the big fish in money laundering and those who are smuggling drugs or narcotics or whatever the case may be. We haven't seen any major conviction in that bracket, and what is the government doing to address that aspect?
Thank you. Now, there were two questions you posed. One, you asked how would I describe the current crime situation. Crime, no form of crime is acceptable. The government position is that all forms of crime is unacceptable, and that is why we are endeavoring to ensure that the police force is resourced to a level that will enable it to eventually detect and prevent the commission of crime. We have increased their budgetary activities to give them the capacity to deal with this scourge which is in our society. We have given them additional facilities in the form of cameras, which would ensure or serve as a backup where citizens might be afraid to come forward. once the cameras capture those images, we can record them and we can have them placed before the courts as the evidential basis upon which the court can accept the evidence taken electronically is already passed and available for use. On the issue of major convictions for what we call big fish, as you are aware, that continues to be a work in progress. In no country, the big fish is caught just like that. It calls for extensive work because of the manner in which big fishes are protected and organized. That is a work in progress which the Guyana Police Force and the other associations, the other national groupings, NANO, and the other drug enforcement agencies will address, utilizing intelligence gathering, utilizing technology. I'm sure that one of these days we will put before the courts someone you would describe as a big fish.
And along the nightly news, Minister Felix, you spoke about how government is basically trying to tackle crime, and you made comparison between now and the past. But can you explain to us how much has been done in the areas, for example, if a person has been convicted, a drug dealer has been convicted and sent to jail, they're coming back and yet have access to proceeds from their assets that they would have gained from narcotics and things like that. I want to bring the point home a bit closer. Let's say, for example, Roger Khan, he's coming back pretty soon and might very well still have access to some of his assets that he would have gained or acquired supposedly while he was involved in the drug trade. What has the government done in areas like that? That's just an example, by the way.
Okay. Issues involving Roger Khan are better dealt with by the police. I'm not shying away from the answer, but I'll give you a general answer. And my general answer would go like this. There are provisions under the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act to deal with asset forfeiture with respect to persons who are convicted in Guyana for trafficking in narcotics. Those provisions are there. So a person who you would regard as a big fish, once convicted in Guyana, his properties, the court would order the confiscation of his properties, and there's a certain manner in which those properties, according to law, would be administered. If the person is convicted outside of Guyana, some courts outside of Guyana would order the property in Guyana also confiscated, sorry. I am not aware of the legal procedure in place to effect such a seizure, since it is outside of the jurisdiction. And I don't know that we have ever been able to confiscate any property of a Guyanese drug dealer who has been convicted outside of Guyana. I don't know how I'm not sure how the laws would respond to that. Can we proceed to confiscate someone's property? I don't know if the law is probably amended, to include such forfeiture. But that is a gray area right now for me. Maybe we need to proceed to improve the laws to ensure that there can be some compatibility and enable asset forfeiture where drug dealers are convicted. But I know if they are convicted for an offense in Guyana, their assets can be forfeited. The gray area is whether that law also applies to foreign convictions. That's the gray area. But locally, it can be done. And there are rules within the law which says how the property is to be administered. So locally, we are okay. But if the conviction is outside of Guyana, I'm not so sure how that would work.
Any questions for Staff of News?
But before, has that answered your question?
Any questions for Staff of News? In your presentation, you spoke about what it was before 2015. Understandably, during that period, we would have seen built up a lot of resentment, anger. Could you talk to us about efforts at reconciliation that this government would have put in place? Because we can talk a lot about punishing the perpetrators, but how do we comfort victims and how do we deal with the wrongly accused, the vilified, etc.? What efforts have been made by your government to have reconciliation in place? And secondly, this is off brief, but in your post as Minister of Citizenship, there has been questions raised that yes, there has been an accounting for the Haitians entering Brazil, but none for them leaving Guyana. There have been concerns raised that they are part of a trap that is being used to smuggle persons, which often leads them vulnerable to trafficking. Is there anything that government would be doing in relation to that?
Now, there are two parts to your question. One, what is government doing to, it said, reconcile with victims? My understanding, that is a work in progress. I think within the laws relating to child protection and violence against women, I think, that there are measures in place to counsel the victims, and in some cases even the perpetrators. That is in place so that victims, one, according to the law, where there is abuse and violence, you can have a restraining order in the first place. That's to protect the victim against continued abuse or violence. And there are facilities in place for the counseling of the victims. There are facilities in place, I think, also for counseling of some suspects or some perpetrators. In the form of ordinary street crimes, I think we have now to progress to that mode, to develop schemes and training, because there are two sets of skills which are needed to counsel and comfort victims of crime as against those who are victims of violence and abuse. So I think we have to develop the facility for training such counselors to deal with victims of crime. And I do agree that certain victims in robberies and so on would need counseling. But that's a different set of skills And I think those are to be developed. But we do counsel the victims of abuse and violence.
I think my question may have been misinterpreted slightly. In this case, perpetrator is the state. The victims would be those young men who were wrongfully imprisoned, tortured, those communities that were vilified and constantly on the guard and strikes. How does government work to reconcile with them?
That too is a work in progress. In some cases, there are actions before the court. The court is one way in which such victims can be, they can have their we call it appeasement, or they can have a remedy for the wrongs which have been done to them by taking action before the court. But the sort of social work that I think you want to refer to, right? I think that is a work in progress, and we have to develop the skill set to deal with victims of, let us say, not extrajudicial killing, because they would not be available. Those who were violated by law enforcement or by officials, that's a separate skill set needed, and of course we will have to access training for that sort of, to counsel that sort of victims. On your other question, which is a very popular one in these days, I gather that you want to know what government is doing to account for those leaving, right?
Yes, and of course with the concern that they might be smuggled, there's also the concern of abuse.
Now, we have improved the facility of the police to investigate these crimes. I have in my office, and which I have shared on previous press conferences, that the Ghana Police Force for 2019 has investigated and charged more persons. I think it's somewhere around 11 or 13 persons charged, more cases than any other period in the 23-year-old history of the people. I've said that already. I have also shared that in none of these cases have we found one Haitian, not one, being smuggled. Not one being involved in human trafficking, not as a victim, neither as a perpetrator. So, while it is within the remit of those columnists and journalists to raise those issues, the government agencies like the police and the narcotics unit are always on the lookout to detect trafficking in persons or smuggling. We have not detected Haitians, we have detected other nationalities. Well, we have found Venezuelans, those from the Dominican Republic, and the majority being Guyanese. We have found those, and we have published those. But no Haitian has been found. So, the hysteria with which this matter is being dealt with is what I suspect to be aimed at tarnishing the government. But the records will reflect, so far, that we have, in our investigative work, we have not detected any Haitian at this time who has been either a victim or a perpetrator of trafficking in persons or human smuggling.
All right, there. What you got, and I know you heard the Minister Felix, with those same words, those exact words. He was here on this program maybe a month ago or so, and he expressed the same feeling here. The reason I brought that press conference back, of course, I didn't get a chance to air it last week nor the week before, but I really wanted you to hear what he had to say on crime and security since the APNU+AFC government took office. So that should have been the gist of that, actually. It really was the gist of that. Unfortunately, this is where I have to take my leave. Those of you who are now tuning in and wondering why I'm coming off so early, because Facing the Nation began 15 minutes early today to accommodate our earlier guest, who was none other than the Honorable David Patterson, the Minister of Public Infrastructure. He came and shared, so once again, thank you very much to him for coming. Again, if you're now tuning in, you can subsequently check my YouTube channel and Facebook page, and the program will be there in its entirety. To those of you who are tuned in, I often forget you, but I'm still getting used to the live feed on the CNS Channel 6 Facebook page. To those of you who are tuned in via CNS Channel 6 Facebook page, thank you very much for always inviting us into your space and having us share with you. I always like to remind people that Facing the Nation is not just a program, it's also always a learning experience. Don't forget, we're in the month of Indigenous Peoples Indigenous Peoples, actually. We should be celebrating our country's first peoples. And also, we're in the month of education. I will try my very best to see how I can focus on those two areas, those two sectors, before the month ends. For now, however, this is where I have to take my leave from today's program. Thank you very much for always tuning in and supporting. I urge you to be good Guyanese citizens. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. I am Malika Ramsey, and this has been Facing the Nation. Thanks for watching.